much for tuning into this week's episode of Classroom. It's a little bit different today. We're going to jump right into the interview because we have a bunch of really exciting guests that we're having on for 1st-Gen week. So thank you guys for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
And yeah, we're going to jump right into it. So if you guys want to give a little intro of who you guys are, and then we'll jump into some of the questions, for 1st-Gen week.
Awesome. I'll start out. Yeah, I'll start out. That's fine. So I'm Alex. I'm a business management major. I'm a 1st-Gen student. I'm a transfer student, and this is my first year at Rutgers.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Shaion, but you guys can call me Shai. I'm a 1st-Gen student, English major, and I'm also born and raised inside the city of Camden as well.
Hi, I'm Nicoletta. I am a nursing major, 1st-Gen, and this is my first year.
All right. And Dylan, host of class. And like I said, I appreciate you guys coming in. And, we're going to jump right into these questions. So one of the first questions that I have for you guys, so we'll start with you, Nicoletta, and then we'll go down the line, is, your initial expectations coming in, like as a freshman, because obviously as a 1st-Gen student, there's a lot less of a frame of reference. So could you tell me a little bit about your initial expectations as a 1st-Gen student about the academic experience, and then kind of how that transformed as you, started taking classes and getting settled in here?
So my first beginning, I was very nervous coming in because obviously 1st-Gen, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm kind of going in completely blind and just hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Especially with my major, I was told it's going to be very hard, and that was very true. It is very hard. I think, I don't know, it was a lot to do on my own and figure out my way as I was going.
Yeah.
For me, when I used to think about college, being 1st-Gen, I didn't have nobody in my immediate family who went to college, so I really didn't have no exact idea of what college was like, and the only ideas I really had was from high school teachers, not high school, but mixture of high school and middle school. When you be in band class, they'd be like, "Oh, this not gonna fly in college" and stuff like that. They try to tell you little warnings like that. And I had certain concepts of college, from movies or TV shows, but that's about it. I never had any family member directly that I was able to see visually in person. So I just had little things in my head from earlier in my childhood. But when I came to college, it was the complete opposite of what people would tell me. I thought college was a place where it's very strict and you basically had to do everything on your own, and there was no much help that was available. And it's a complete opposite of at least with Rutgers. There's so many resources here that it's insane.
Yeah.
That I would never think of. We have food pantries. There's so much things that they offer. Wellness Wednesdays, when they bring on dogs on campus, stuff like that. I would never even think about.
Cool.
And I feel all the bad things I had about college, it kind of tossed away in my head, because now I'm able to experience it directly myself as a 1st-Gen student.
Yeah.
It's way more positive than I actually thought it would be.
That's super cool to hear. And what about you, Alex?
Oh,
if you don't mind, just lean in just a little bit too.
Oh, yeah.
For in there.
My bad.
yeah, you're all good. You're all good.
Cool.
Yep, right there is great.
Yeah, so basically I gotta go with what they were saying. It was a lot of anxiety. It was can I compete in this world? Am I gonna feel out of place? Am I gonna be able to succeed here? Because my expectation is that, college is going to be, really hard, and it wasn't going to be for, somebody like me. But, once I got here and I realized all the students deal with the same level of anxiety and the same, we all kind of had the same fears of failure and success and things like that. And when I got here, I realized we're all in this together. This is one big community, and everybody's driving forward to push each other to be successful. And so that idea, I never could have perceived that. I never would have thought of that before. I thought, it would have just been I'm here on my own, I'm all alone, and I gotta make my way.
And that's super cool to hear how you guys have adapted, to the academic environment. And you had a perception of it at the beginning, but that changed over time.
Right.
When it comes to adapting, what kind of strategies or mindsets do you think kind of went into being able to adapt to the academic environment here at Rutgers Camden?
I feel like adapting, it was more or less just getting to know your peers that you have, that you're in the same major with, you're in the same class, or even like clubs and stuff, kind of just rallying together and helping each other. I feel like working together is the only way to really get through your classes and to make college enjoyable. You're not going to enjoy it unless you're getting involved and finding others to help you get through.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, definitely got to agree there, because when you feel like you're all alone, then it kind of like just it discourages you. But there's like, once you start reaching out to people and you understand like, oh, they have similar struggles and they're going through this or they're going through that, and you can kind of piggyback off each other's success and find strategies that help them.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, that worked for you? Okay, cool. And then you start testing out the things that work for this person and that person, you find what fits you, and then, you know, it ultimately leads you further down that line.
Yeah, for me, like, when it came to adapting on campus, it was like, I wouldn't say it was a major shift, but there were certain things within myself that I had to change. Like, as far as maturing, that's definitely a part, because when you come to college as a first-gen student, you're most likely a little bit on the younger side. I came into college being 17 years old, and
that's young.
That's
yeah, I came in at 17 too. It definitely, it's a big shift.
Big shift, especially coming from high school. Like, as a first year, you're going from high school to college.
Yeah.
There's a certain shift that you have to fix internally, and I think along the way you learn like certain things. Like, I feel like a lot of the adaptation I had to learn, I used to watch like other students, the way they used to come to class and take notes all the time. I'm like, you know, let me do what she's doing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and you just pick things up along the way as you just go through the journey, I feel like.
What do you think is one of the things you're most proud of that you've been able to adapt? Because I know you mentioned there was a couple different things that you picked up from other students.
Yeah.
What do you think is one that you're like, wow, this is really helping me right now?
So for me, I had bad memory. And
me too.
And I wouldn't say I'm perfect at it, but I've been perfecting the craft of just basically being a better note taker. And with that, that has helped me way much more with my exams and stuff, because I feel like when it comes to classes, professors may give you a lot of information, but they can give you different sources of information. But when it comes to the midterm exam, it's like, I don't even remember us talking about this.
Yeah.
So, I definitely picked up certain like type of time prioritizations, like look at my schedule, because I also, being a first-gen student, I somewhat have to support myself financially as my parents work and stuff like that. So I come here full time and I work a part-time job. So a lot of that is also with just finding availability within your schedule to look at your work and see what you're actually obtaining from your classes and stuff. Due to me having bad memory, when my professors like write stuff on the board, I always take pictures. Cause think about it, you're always on your phone. So I'm like, if I'm always on this phone, I might as well just take pictures while I'm in class.
Yeah.
So if I don't like remember like what did we even talk about, I can always pull up in my camera roll and stuff like that. And I like just taking notes. I don't write notes no more. I realized that like from my first year, I write too slow. And then like with classes being fast paced, it wasn't working. So that's why I also switched over to just taking pictures and having a copy in my phone.
But that's a good switch. You found something that worked for you.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And that's kind of like one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys is when it comes to, you know, if you're preparing for a midterm or it's just, you know, a stressful part of the semester, when things, you know, got really tough, what kind of academic supports and resources did you guys find worked most for you? What kind of places did you go when it came to, you know, like midterms and finals and that kind of thing? What's working right now?
Me personally, I started going to peer tutoring.
Yeah.
Because I realized I couldn't do it all on my own, because there's just so much information and there's so much to study that I couldn't pinpoint exactly what I needed to know or what I was doing wrong and not, like, I guess not, like what information I could use and couldn't use. So I was working with my peers, but then also going to somebody who taught the class before so she could help me like exactly figure out what I needed to know.
That's awesome. That's a big one. It helped me a lot too.
Yeah.
I'm about to say a little bit what she was saying, like one big thing that I still low-key have a problem with, talking to your professors.
Mm-hmm.
I like coming in as a first gen student. Like I already told you how before I came in with this perception in my head that I'm all alone and I'm not gonna have as much help. So my first year, looking back now, I struggled way more than I should because I didn't communicate with my professors. And I'm also in EOF, so like when I would talk to my counselors, they'd be like, "Well, Shai, why don't you just talk to your professors? Ask them what you could work on. Ask them where you can improve at. Ask them for feedback. They're here to serve you as a student." And once I got that type of perspective, I'm like, "You're right. Like, I know I'm here. I'm paying for these courses. I'm here to get a degree." And I'm over here doing this journey alone when my professors can also aid me in this journey because I'm taking their courses.
Yeah, for sure.
So, definitely communicating, it goes a long way. That's definitely one thing about that.
That's awesome. That's a big one too. That's
Yeah.
something that it took me a couple of semesters to get used to, and that's actually something, you know, we have a professor that's going to be coming on a little bit later, Professor Silvia Perez-Cortes. Hi, hello back there. And that's something that, you know, I'm going to talk to her about a little bit too. I mean, just having that, you know, student to professor relationship, you know, even if it's just 5 minutes after class or even if it's office hours, it helps, and it comes a long way because professors, they're really there to help you. And so that's really good to hear. What about you,
the
Alex?
office hours, that was like a major thing, like, you know, having midterms coming up and having that time slot to be able to meet with your professor and ask questions and, you know, just clarify certain things.
Yeah,
so that was one thing that I took advantage of. And like a lot of it too came from the beginning of the semester because there's so many like I went to so many workshops and all these things to help me get prepared for these times that like certain study strategies and time management skills that I learned like early on in the semester really like helped me when it came time for midterms, because I'm also working too. I'm, you know, full-time and working, and it's like, how do I get all of this done? I never have any time.
Yeah.
You know, so but with these like things that I've learned, you know, through workshops and different things that have been available to me, it made everything much more manageable, and that was like a big key to you know, getting through that push and around midterms.
That's awesome to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
I got one more question for you guys, and then we're gonna do a quick interlude, and we'll have our next guest come in.
Sure.
In terms of like, you know, any lessons or advice that you would offer to like first gen students that are coming in, like things that you've learned, things that you're like, you know, you absolutely need to know this. What kind of things have you learned along your way that you know, if there was a first gen student right here in front of you, what's the first thing that you would tell them?
The first thing I'd probably tell them is to just reach out for help.
Yeah.
Use your resources, whether it's your peers or your counselors or your professors. Just use your resources.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, like she said, there's no such thing in my eyes, especially as a first gen, so there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there was so many things I was curious about that I had to learn throughout the way, but had I just asked people around me who been through what I was going through currently, or my professors or whatever, there's a lot of people that's willing to help you and give you advice and give you tips on how to, whether it's with your major or a certain course you take, it doesn't matter. Like, there's so much on here at campus. Also, like the Rutgers app, the Rutgers Camden app, that's also one outlet where like I didn't really have nobody to talk to on campus, so if I had a certain question about a course or something, I would post a question and people would reply or stuff like that. And little things like that it's very little, but it will help you along the way.
For sure.
Yeah,
For
so I agree with both of them. It's really, if I had somebody to tell them, I would say, number one, stay focused, right? Because if you start to, you know, drift off, you know, you might end up somewhere else. But build your network. You have to build the network, and it's harder for people, you know, especially first gen students, because you don't feel like maybe you're a part of something, but there's so many resources and there's so many people out there that are willing to help. Or you just have to learn who these people are and how to take advantage of what they have to offer, whether it be your peers, you know, your colleagues, like, you know, classmates and things like that, or if it's just resources on campus, like if you get to talking to people. A lot of us are shy, you know, especially like we're like we're here and we're like, I don't want to be bothered, don't talk to me, you know, like everybody's like a little nervous and scared, but like once you start to like break out of that and you realize like it's nothing but help all around you, you start to find that, and that's like it's critical to your success. You just build that network, branch out, and be vulnerable sometimes. Meet some people, and see what opportunities you can
Stay
take advantage
involved.
of.
Yeah, that's a
Definitely
big
stay
one.
involved too. Yeah, that's
We actually have just
Yeah.
a couple more minutes, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw one more question in, if you don't mind.
yeah.
And if
absolutely.
nothing comes to mind, that's totally fine. But I just wanted to get some feedback in terms of the academic support resources that you have used and all the different resources you have used. Are there any that you wish you would see more of? Or is there any kind of specific area in terms of academic support that you're like, I wish this is great, but I wish I had more of this?
I feel like 'cause there's so many things on campus that we do already offer. Cause I work in the Office of Learning Support Services.
Yeah.
And I feel like with my office, I wish it could be promoted a little bit more. Cause like I work in the annex, so like it's kind of like a quiet desert sometimes, and like it's a very welcoming place. I'm sure you've been.
Oh
there
yeah,
before.
it's great, of course.
And I was just talking to my boss. I'm like, what can we do to just make this a more welcoming space for students to come in and just sit down and do their work if they need? Because there's a lot.
That's what we're tasking ourselves with too over at the Learning Center. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, because I know like with the library, you have the upstairs that's like a quiet study zone and stuff like that. And then some people just during the free period, some people like to come here during the campus center and try to find a quiet pace as much as possible. But that's not always successful. And like where I work at the Office of Learning Support Services, we're like kind of like in the low, like in the cut. So like we're not really as known as I hope for us to be. But I wish that is an area that is promoted a little bit more, that people know about.
Okay. Yeah.
That is more open to students.
Yeah, maybe we can think of some ways to partner since you've got Office of Learning Support Services. We're over at the Learning Center. We already do some cross promotion things like that.
Yeah.
But that would be fun to think of something like that.
Yeah, so I'll speak for me. I love Trio. I'm
Yeah.
a Trio scholar. Trio is amazing because every
Trio's
time
great.
every time I see Brandon or somebody, they're always constantly checking in with me. They're like, hey, what's going on? Have you done this? Have you done that? How's everything going with midterms? Classes are okay? Have you got have you gotten a tutor? We have this, we have that. They're constantly reminding me of everything that they have available for me, and everything that I should be doing and taking advantage of. And it always keeps me on my toes. So I love Trio. They always have
That's great to
excellent
hear.
support from me.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I think I'm gonna piggyback off of him because I'm also a part of Trio.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been a huge help, just the constant reminder or like knowing they're there if I ever need them to be.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's just you might just walk by the office and they'll, hey, how you doing? And you need anything? What can I help you with? Like always, really supportive. Love Trio.
I always feel like EOF and Trio are two programs here that like we already have obviously, but they're not really as known. Like there's probably a lot of students here that are eligible for those programs and they don't know or they never come across it. I know for me, I never even heard of EOF until it came to promote like applying for college.
Yeah.
But if that was something I'd known prior, like as I was looking into schools and stuff like that, that would help me out a little bit more. So I feel like programs like that, programs like EOF and Trio, I wish they had a little bit more advertisement.
Yeah.
When it came to like resources on campus.
Yeah, because that's what we're trying to get the word out. EOF Trio, and then also at the Learning Center with peer tutoring, the Navigate app, which people are, because you get so many different academic support resources within that app. So it's good to have your perspectives coming on and just kind of showing more representation of all these different groups on campus, because you guys are the people that this is directly impacting. So I really appreciate you guys coming on and sharing what's worked and what you want to advice you want to give to other students, and it's really appreciated. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thank
you
for
for having
us.
us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and so we're just going to run through a couple of songs, probably just do one or two, and then we're going to go into the next section of our interview. We have a couple more guests coming on. We've got Paris, another 1st-Gen student, and also Professor Silvia Perez-Cortes. So it's going to be a really, really great conversation. So we'll be back in just a couple minutes. Stay tuned, and I will see you then. Thank you guys again for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and we are now back with Professor Silvia Perez-Cortes. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so if anyone may not know you, can you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you teach, and just kind of like how you got here?
Yeah, it was a long journey as a 1st-Gen student. So I'm an associate professor of Spanish in the World Languages and Cultures department. And I teach anything related to Spanish linguistics, how languages are learned and acquired. I specialize on children language acquisition. So if anybody is interested in teaching or in how language works, that's what I do.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool. And we'll jump right into the first question I have for you. It's kind of a broad question, but generally speaking, what does being a first-generation student mean to you?
Having a lot of pressure. As a first-gen student, it was crippling pressure and anxiety that I had when I first started college. And I have like two different experiences, but very much related, because my first experience was in Spain. I'm originally from Spain, so I did my undergrad there, and there was nothing, no services for students.
Wow.
There's no support whatsoever.
Like
so
you were just totally solo.
Yeah.
Wow,
I was on my
that's
own.
Crazy.
The system is much more, I don't know, it's easier to get into college. Everything is much more standardized, but at the same time, nobody helps you at all. So you're basically on your own. Professors are not as friendly as they are here.
Really?
They're not so willing to help. They're just up there. They lecture, and then you leave, and you probably don't see them again until the next class.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a very isolating experience. So what I've seen now in the US, I was also a first gen when I started my master's and my PhD here, but there's so many more resources. And there's a tribe. As a lot of the students who came before me said, you gotta find your village, you gotta find your family. And if you find support, that's gonna be so much more easier for you. But yeah, I had a lot of anxiety. I still do. I don't think it ever goes away.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing to look forward to. I'm sorry, but I think you learn to manage it, and it also helps you, gives you like a reality check of how you have to learn to ask for help. You can't do everything on your own.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah, I also had parents who were just like Paris said, that they encouraged me to be responsible, to take care of things, to be independent. I'm an only child, so they were very afraid that I wouldn't have that support system to help. So they always said, Silvia, find a way to do it. So when I went to college, I thought, well, you don't need anybody else. You found your way up to here, but it's so foreign. It doesn't matter if it's in your own country, if it's in another country. The system is so different from what you've seen before, that you need to ask for help.
And one of the things that you said right there that jumped out to me is this idea that it doesn't necessarily go away right after college.
No.
Because I think one of the things, at least I know, and I'm literally just starting to experience this now, having just graduated. Sometimes you just have graduation, just like that's the finish line. That's like that's when your life is just starting, and so it's new problems, it's new stress, it's amazing opportunities. But it's not like the difficulty level gets any lower.
No.
And so since you have far more experience knowing what that's like, what kind of mindsets or just what have you found has just helped you stay afloat even?
I think that those 4 years, 5 years, however long it takes you to finish your BA or your master's, those are learning formative years. You get used to being okay, not being okay, knowing that there's anxiety that you can manage, that there's a lot of support that you can have. And again, it's the issue of, well, there's a lot more people that are in your same situation. You're not in your own. When you're a first-gen student, you think that you're the only one who has issues. You're the only one who can get that material that the professor just explained. You're the one who needs the most resources because you're a disaster. And that's not true. We get on our way a lot, and somebody else said it, and I think that we are our own worst enemy most of the time, and we have to learn that, we are not. We can ask for help, and there's other people there for us. So I think that that's the biggest thing for me, but it doesn't go away in the sense that, as you're saying, like, especially the relationship with your family changes too, right? Because they can help you, they can support you, but it's different problems, it's different situations. So talking to them changes as well. I've had so many comments, in dinners and lunches, and I bet some of our students too, of like, what is it that you do? And why?
I've gotten that as well, because like my dad, he never went, and so like my mom went, and so there's a long history there, but my dad never went. So I would have like conversations that would be reminiscent of like, this must be what a first gen like experiences all the time.
Yep, all the time. It's like, why are you spending so much time studying? Or why is it nonstop work? Like, are all jobs like this in the US? And I'm like, I don't know,
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah, it's like, aren't you home? You have free time. I'm like, no, I'm studying all the time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it never goes away. And for my parents, it's like once you have your PhD, they thought that it would stop there, right?
Yeah.
And it's so much more, right? You keep on doing research. So it happens in every other job that's different from what your family did. And to understand that, that's a big of a disconnect that we have to work on, right? If we want to keep on, living with our families and having relationships with them. But it happens to everybody. It's
Yeah.
not just your own family. I have a lot of students who say, my parents don't understand. They don't understand why I picked this major, or they don't understand why it's so hard for me. But we're there to help them understand too. Like, we have to sit down and try to find ways to connect.
Yeah, and one of the things too, and I believe it was Shaion, I think she mentioned reaching out to professors as being one of a huge help. How have you seen, how do you feel when students reach out to you, and how have you found that, individually it helps them really kind of like feel like they're not just in a sea of students in the class, and they're really like, they're being supported from faculty and from staff?
I always clap, like it's a big step.
Yeah.
Because I always think of my own experience and how hard it was for me to reach out to professors. In Spain, it was a no-go situation. You did not reach out to your professor.
Yeah.
But here in the US, you have many more opportunities to create a relationship that goes beyond the classroom. It's not just about the class content, it's about so much more. Research opportunities, opportunities with the tutoring center, with success coaches that we know of, that we can help you with. So one of the things that I always keep in mind every year when I start a class with my students is sometimes I make the first step with them because I know that it was really hard for me. So if I show that I'm here to help, this is my office. Like I literally take them to my office to show them what office hours are, because I didn't know what office hours were when I was an undergrad student.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Like you're in your office sitting down and then you're just waiting there? No, it's like it's time that the professor has allocated to help. But we can help in many other ways, not just office hours, but to understand that we want to help. Like there's so many professors here at Rutgers-Camden who are 1st-gen, and we all get it. Like we get how hard it was. So yeah, no, I try to make an effort with my students, but when they make an effort, when they come to my office hours, when they say, they come after class, they say, Profe, I really need help, I'm struggling. Can you give me more information on that? So I try to either point them to the person that's gonna help them if I can't do it, or I say, okay, let's sit down, let's see what steps we need to take together to reach where you wanna go.
Yeah, that's a big one. And one thing too, because this is what I found when I was a student, and I know a lot of students here feel the same way, because a lot of them they're commuter students, and they live on, or even if they live on campus, they might have a campus job. There's so many other things. Family is a huge part of that. So this is for 1st-gen, but also for just students in general. A lot of times when I think, I remember I'd be a student and the professor would say office hours, and I'd be like, when will I have time for that? Or, go get tutoring. When will I have time for that?
Yeah.
And so, even though it's so incredibly important, how in your experience, what do you think is the best way to communicate to students that this is something you need to fit into your schedule? And how do you even go about that, time management wise? Yeah,
organizing yourself is so crucial, because I think that most of the time we are getting on our own way, and we keep on getting into cycles of, I don't have time for this, this overlaps with something else that I'm doing, and you're losing valuable time just spending time thinking of how you can do certain things. So I think
that's a really good point. I do that every day.
I do that a lot, and I think 1st-gen students do that even more, because you're always questioning yourself and whether what you're doing is actually what you should be doing.
Yeah.
That process of questioning and like second guessing yourself prevents you from actually solving the problem. So I have a lot of students, like it's a very typical Rutgers-Camden situation. All of the students are extremely sweet and also conscious of, that sometimes if they don't hand in stuff on time, they should have done that. So they don't come, they start a cycle of not coming to class, not asking for help. And once you see that process started, that's when you have a moment to stop that from happening and say,
that's
okay.
A great point. Like progress reports is a great, like right in the middle of the semester, just like nip that in the bud.
And think that professors notice, and that when we reach out, we don't reach out to punish you. We reach out to say, hey, can I help?
Yeah.
It might be just a general, tending your hand and say, I can give you the resources, even if it's not just an academic question. It might be, I've had a lot of students who had financial aid issues this semester, or they had family issues. There are systems in place that Rutgers-Camden has that can help you.
Mm.
And that will allow you to organize yourself so that you can have time to study, time to go to tutoring, time to go to your professor's office hours. Besides, office hours are really open.
Mm.
So those of you who are looking at the syllabus and see from 11:20 to 12:20, we are there most of the time.
Yeah.
So feel free to drop a line and just ask, are you there at any other time? And we will probably be there. We can
Mhm.
even do Zoom appointments. So think of other ways in which we can help, and I'm sure a lot of professors will be very willing to do so.
That's it's crazy because I remember literally this past semester,
Mhm.
because I just got finished graduating, I would look at the office hours and be like, oh, they're only available for an hour. And
Yep.
not realize if I had just gone and
I'm
like
done.
spoke with them, yeah.
It's impossible. Like
Yeah.
there's no way that I'm gonna catch up with this, and that's a very normal reaction that I see in the students. So I always and there's gonna be professors who are more open. There's gonna be professors who may not say it, but they do it anyway. That's why it's so important for the student to make the first step sometimes and
Mhm.
just ask. It's not a silly question. As a first-gen student, I always thought all the questions that I had were very basic,
Mhm.
that they were gonna laugh at me because everybody else knew.
Mhm.
Probably nobody else knows, and you're the first one who is brave enough to ask the question. So ask the professor, is there any other way of meeting outside of your office hours? And I'm sure that there's a way for that.
Yeah, that's a big one.
So
That's a
ask,
big one.
yeah.
And how, and you can be totally honest, I want to
Mhm.
know from your perspective, from having students who they might have started out and they weren't getting academic support, whether it's peer tutoring, whether it is, working over at the Success Coach office,
Mhm.
any of the many different, offices that we have on campus. When you recommend students go there, or they may say, now I'm getting
Mhm.
tutoring or something like that, have you seen an improvement over the course of the semester?
For sure, 100%. Every
I
time.
know I lived that. I wanted to check with you.
No, for sure. Like we also see it on the other end.
That's great.
Yeah, because sometimes they can generally cannot come to any of the hours that the professor offers. So the other option is the other resources that the campus has.
Yeah.
And I have totally seen great turnarounds with at the learning center with tutoring.
Mhm.
That was amazing with some of my students. And I think sometimes it's not so much it is the academics, yes, but it's also the connection with other people
Yes,
who
100%.
know about that, but also who are going through the same thing. Because most of the issues that I'm seeing with students right now, it's half of them are academic, half of them are about isolation and needing somebody else. And as a first-gen student, one thing that I suffered a lot, that I went through a lot, was feeling isolated and feeling alone. So until I found my group of friends or people who were studying the same thing, I did not feel like I truly belonged, and that I did not feel that I could graduate on time and that I could go on to do bigger and better things.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What kind of things do you wish you had in terms of cultivating that sense of belonging?
Mhm.
Because obviously, the academic support side, obviously we would have loved to have a tutoring center and all
Yeah.
those different things, but when it comes to like the more kind of like intangible social side of it,
Mhm.
what do you think really would have set you up well?
Oh, I think that these student groups that they have now are amazing. I
Mhm.
think that students, I understand that there's a lot of you who commute,
Mhm.
and I understand that sometimes you feel like you cannot stay for X many hours on the campus, but there's always time to be a part of something,
Yeah.
and that is going to make a big difference. It would have made a big difference for me if there
Mhm.
had been any student clubs, student organizations, Tri Alpha, which
Yeah.
is amazing. So it just find some time to be a part of something bigger than yourself, even if you're an introvert, regardless of how your personality is. And you're gonna see an impact not only in yourself and your well-being, but also in the academic side of things. I do see it all the time. Students who remain isolated, who think that they're just in and out, like somebody said before, right?
Yeah.
In and out. That never works out.
Yeah.
I see a lot of students just dropping out when they feel that it's only an in and out experience. College is so much more than that.
Mhm.
And there's a ton of services available for you.
Yeah, that's a great segue because that was my next question. We've got a couple more minutes. I got two more questions for you. This is one of them. I think a lot of times the natural mindset is academics are over here and social is over here. But a lot of times they are very intertwined because it's like if you have to study, you can't go to the social. Or if you go to the social, you may have more motivation to study. Or the social, they may have people that are actually in the same class as you and things like that.
Exactly.
But sometimes we split them. How do you think, both from a student perspective, but even like a staff and faculty perspective, how can we kind of like exist in the gray a little bit more and merge those two? Is it like collaborations between, you know, organizations and support offices, or, you know, like, what do you think? What's the way to kind of get a little bit closer to that middle ground, which is, I think, the reality for most students?
Yeah, I think the collaboration and the communication amongst all of the different pieces at the university is crucial, because sometimes, you know, there might be a lot of solutions that we as faculty could be giving students, but there's I heard a lot of the students that were part of, you know, organizations in the campus or offices in the campus, and they're like, I wish that a lot more people knew about us more. And I feel the same way as a faculty, and also I felt the same way as a student, right? That I wish I had known about this, and now I say, I wish I knew about this, that I could have referred the student to this. So I think that being more aware of all the services by creating opportunities that mesh all of them, right? So I think that 1st-Gen week, I think it's an amazing opportunity. The mixer that's going to be on tonight, right? I think it's a great opportunity of networking with faculty, staff, and other students. Also have fun. You know, and getting out of your comfort zone. So I think that those opportunities should exist more, so that we would find ways in which, you know, the academics, the social part of it, and also, you know, the growth, the wellness, everything could be done at the same time. So I think that is definitely the future, and something we have to work more on.
Yeah, for sure. That's something that was like literally at the beginning of the semester, I was like, okay, what is on the list? Like, what can I just help? What's the goal for the Learning Center? This, you know, what can, you know, I spoke with, you know, my manager and my directors, and you know, we were like, what are we aiming for this semester? And I think part of it was just like, let's get all of these pieces that are all over the campus, these very valuable groups and pieces. Like, we all have the same goal. Let's just get them back, you know, all in the center here. Yeah, so it's really important.
And you don't have much time. As a 1st-Gen student, I think of my students all the time, because I went through that, and it's like, there's so much information and you're bombarded with it, and sometimes you just have to shut everything down, because you know that you can't do that, you can't do that either, and you cannot even start to think of any other possibilities that are around you. So I think we have to do a better job of packaging the opportunities for the students, so that our student commuters, our students with families, our students who work full-time, which is most of the population at Rutgers, feel that they can take part in those activities, and it's not going to take off time that they would be using on something that they need for the livelihood, right? Like, they need to
it's the condensing.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we have through like the Navigate student app, there's a lot of information, but it's all condensed within there, and typically it would have found, like, as a student, it would have taken me so much longer to find all those different things. Like, there's a campus map in there, but there's also even just like the contact information for your success team, and then you can schedule appointments right there. There's a to-do list, and so I think more things like that, condensing things, I think that'll be really helpful.
The workshops that one of the students talked about at the first section, the first segment, right? Like,
the
having
academic
those
achievement,
exactly.
They're great.
So that you know what tools are available, but I think also from a faculty and staff perspective, having that too. Having those announced, having some workshops for us too, because that's very much needed. That's what we need.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. And one last question for you. Kind of ask everyone else this. In terms of lessons you learned, and we talked a little bit about that, but for the 1st-Gen student coming in, what is the main thing that you would tell them, just to get through the first year? Like, what?
Yeah, give yourself some credit. It's hard. It's there's gonna be a lot of pressure, but don't think yourself as a failure. You did a lot just to get to here. So you can do it. You belong. That's what I would tell myself for my first year of, my first undergrad year. Like, you belong. Don't be so worried. Enjoy the experience. Yes, it's hard, but you are here now. You belong.
That's a great way to end it. Everyone who's watching this, every student, you are here for a reason. You belong here. And so thank you so much for joining. Thank you guys so much for watching. Enjoy all of 1st-Gen week. There's so many different great things going on. There's a mixer going on tonight.
4:30.
4:30. Check the Engage page, because there's gonna be tons of stuff going on. And tune in next week, same time, same place. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you are, needing to schedule a tutoring appointment, if you want to go to the academic achievement workshops that go on, in Armitage 106 every Tuesday and Thursday, there's so many different resources. Everything that we've been talking about here. If you didn't know about some of these things and you want to know more about them, you can DM the Learning Center, RUC_Learning Center. Also download the Navigate student app. A lot of information is in there, in addition to being able to, schedule tutoring appointments and all these different things. And let's just keep getting all these resources just out in front of students.
And talk to your professors.
Yes.
We're okay.
Yes.
We don't bite.
It's a huge one. But we will see you guys next week, and good luck with the rest of the semester, rest of midterms if you're still in the middle of those. And we'll see you next week. Have a good one. Thank you again.
Thank you.